Yeah, I think we can start now. Okay. Yes.
Okay, all right. Are you recording?
Yes, it is started.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So today I'm going to talk about, and there will be a more of a natural discussion and dialogue between myself, Baliram, and Shabak.
Yes.
So we want to talk about the supply chain management, right? So the
Yes.
recently across there have been a lot of news, right, about the supply chain is really becoming a focus across all the businesses, right? So be it, let's say,
Yes.
any industry like the automotive, semiconductor, FMCG,
Hmm.
or even the healthcare supply chains, right?
Yes.
Uh, so now the really question, right, and how someone, let's say, is very new to the supply chain function, how we can understand, okay, why it is important the supply chain, right? Why there is a focus, and what is
Yes.
the
Yes.
formal definition of supply chain, right? Because depending upon the company, depending upon the industry, a lot of people use slightly different terminology, right?
Hmm.
So I think, Shava, we can talk about like how we can define that in very simplistic way. What is the
Yes.
supply
Yes.
chain, right?
Yes.
So maybe
Yes.
I'll give a quick overview, and Shava, feel free to, ask any questions, right? The follow-up
Ye-
questions, and then
Yes,
happy
sure,
to.
sure, Baliram. Yeah, I would be very happy to join for this first discussion on the supply chain, where we both who have the common interest on this topic, we will be discussing what we understood from the supply chain through the reading different websites and books and watching the different videos. Moreover, to that, we both are into the field where we are exploring daily about the either of this logistics, supply chain, and the value chain. So here we both are sharing a common understanding, and it not from any taken words or the taken definition from the any books or the website. So it is whatever we are sharing is a common understanding. Of course there is some common words or the statements which are available in the online also, but whatever we both are presenting is our understanding uh, of the supply chain management. So today Baliram, you will be explaining what is his understanding on this topic. Later on I would be explaining what is my understanding or my perceptions on the supply chain. Yes, Baliram, please continue.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think I'll take maybe a quick step back, right, to set a context for why understanding supply chain is important.
Okay.
So every business has the multiple functions, right? So if
Yes.
layman has to kind of understand, traditionally everyone can relate that there is the sales, right? There is marketing,
Yes.
then there is finance.
Yes.
There might be the functions like, for example, the HR, for example, right? So there is
Hmm.
enterprise IT and so on.
Hmm.
So supply chain is also one of the important functions, right?
Hmm.
Uh, some of the companies traditionally say, and there is a evolution, right? So if we
Hmm.
go maybe a 20 or 30 or 40 years back, we
Hmm.
can see that when industrial engineering was coming as one of the field, right? So because there
Yes.
was manufacturing happening at a scale,
Hmm.
at that time, everything about, let's say, the material, right,
Hmm.
was
Hmm.
basically the supply chain, right? If I had to get the
Yes.
material and move the material, that's the supply chain.
Okay.
Even today's world,
Hmm.
so if we ask some of the very expert, right, what
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
really definition of supply, lot of complexity is there, but in very
Okay.
simplistic term, it's like moving the
Yes.
boxes,
Yes.
right, or the moving the material.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot of things come along with that.
Okay. Okay. And one more thing is that adding to your whatever you have said, when was the industrial revolution happened? Might be not that time that word supply chain was in the existence. I'm not surely can tell, but might not be the supply chain. That term is used on that time.
Yeah, yeah, you are
Okay.
right. I mean, so there has been evolution, absolutely, right? So
Yes.
that's why I said, like earlier, I'll not be able to provide the exact fact, but there is definitely evolution happening, right? So even if we look at maybe a recent years, we can see a lot of evolution has happened.
Okay.
Because 10 years back, there was nothing called as a risk management, right? So there was nothing called as data management or analytics for the supply chain. to make
Okay.
the decision better, right? So there was nothing called as the governance, for example, right? So the
Hmm.
governance required for maybe the supply chain assessment or the for data within the supply chain, or
Hmm.
maybe a traceability of the supply chain, right? So the now the modern organizations are having these additional functions, right? So whose job is really to help
Hmm. Hmm.
improve the supply chain better, right?
Yes.
And a
Yes.
lot of
Okay.
this is proving as a competitive advantage for the businesses.
Yes. Yes. Yes, like mainly like before, if I remember that whatever I have read is around in the 1940s and the 1950s, there was some time around this decade, the supply chain and the logistics, specifically the logistics in the Second World War, that word or the
Yeah.
terminology has come to the existence. But before to that, that whatever the activities now we are seeing in the supply chain management was happening in the different breakouts, like production,
Hmm.
operations, procurement, sales, distribution. It was happening in the different uh, like sections, or we can say different categories.
Hmm.
So on that time there was a big gap between the activities of the different departments. So this gap would be the main reason for the more cost occurrence or the losses or the
Hmm.
mismanagement of the information between the departments, mainly the reason why the company was not able to reduce the cost. So might be that is the one reason where the supply chain came
Hmm.
into the existence, taking or we can say wrapping up all these things from the we say like a P2P, procurement to the price payment of
Hmm.
the invoice.
Yeah.
So all the things wrapped into one single umbrella, and the name was given as a supply chain. Before to that, the same activities were happening, but under the different heads, or we can say under the different roof it was happening. So supply chain management is where it took all the things together. That is what I can
Hmm.
understand from your the explanation. Like manufacturing, or you have focused on the like give a more stress on the these entities such as suppliers, manufacturing, distributor, logistics provider, and the
Hmm.
customers were before also, as you said, but supply chain focused more on that and brought all the things under the one head.
Yeah, so I think that's
Yes,
more the connectedness and
yes,
synchronization, right?
yes, synchro, yes, correct,
Uh,
correct.
so at enterprise level, since we're talking about other functions, so
Hmm.
supply chain now, as you said, let's say maybe has evolved and some of the multiple things are coming together.
Yes,
Maybe something like from your procure to pay, for example, or the plan to
yes,
deliver
yes,
kind of process.
yes, yes,
Uh, but if you look at the broad level, right? So the three, maybe you could imagine like a triangle. So the
yes,
three
okay,
the points on the triangle. So the one is supply chain. We can say that has one function.
okay,
Then
yes,
there is R&D, and then there is commercial. So the commercial is
okay,
anything that deals with customers, with your
mm-hmm.
pricing, right, and
Yes,
providing the product to your customer. So
yes,
the
yes,
connectedness and as well as synchronization between these three functions is very crucial
yes,
to
yes,
deliver
okay,
the right product at the right cost, right,
okay.
and as well as the right service for the customer. Right?
Okay, okay. Means basically you are making the three main division in an one entity. That is research and analytics, supply chain management, and the marketing and the customer related.
Yeah, so that could be angle of looking from a integrated business planning, right, or the
Okay.
SNOP.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So
this
like
function actually connects
yes.
the
Mhm.
supply chain with other functions.
Okay. So supply chain is a separate bunch of the activities, and you are saying that whatever in the supply chain activities is not in the sales and commercial. So sales and commercial is a separate bunch of activities, research and development is a separate bunch of activity, and supply chain is all together separate from these two.
Yeah, that is right. So those are
Hmm.
different discrete functions, right?
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
they have to be connected and they need to be
Okay, they are,
synchronized.
yes, yes, they are connected in terms of in terms of information, passage of the information,
Correct.
passage of the no feedbacks, passage of the datas and the inflow and the outflow of the information. Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
yes,
absolutely. And
yeah.
to build on that, Shavak, I think we are coming to the definition of supply chain, right?
Okay, yes.
So these entities we talked about to certain extent, right? So there is a supplier, you said, then there is a producer or manufacturer, then there is a
Hmm.
distributor who distribute those products. The
Okay.
logistic, there could be 3PL. Even in modern world, there are 4PL as well, right? The four party
Yes,
logistics.
yes, yes,
There's a
yes,
retailer and there is a customer, right? So
yes.
imagine in the network of a supply, this is more of a node, right?
Okay.
And there is a flow is happening, the flow of
Hmm.
different things.
Okay.
Traditionally, we used to say the flow of three major things, but now there
Hmm.
are some couple of additions also. So the one
Okay.
major flow is the flow of physical material, right? Because the material
Okay.
needs to come from supplier and go to customer.
Okay. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
second one
Physical
is important,
material
was
is
flow of
a
a cash. Right?
okay.
Even
It's okay. Physical material is a raw material. You are saying.
raw material and as well as it could be intermediate and it could be a finished product, right? Throughout supply
Okay.
chain, for
Okay.
example, the raw material
Okay.
coming from supplier will come to
Okay.
producer. From
Okay.
producer, within the producer, there might be some flow of an
Yes.
intermediate product also that might happen. Right? The
Okay.
finished product on
Okay.
supply to distributor.
Okay. 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 Right. Correct. Correct.
Yeah. So this
Yes.
was the cache, right? So the cache also when maybe a systems were not there, or even when maybe a computers and modern technology was very in nascent stage, even that
Hmm.
time cash flow was very important, right? So the
Okay.
cash
Yes.
flow
Correct.
happening between these entities, and even today is also very very important.
Yes. Yes.
The third one
Cash.
is the information.
Yes. Cash in the terms reward.
Yeah, exactly. So the cash as in, let's say I'm selling something as a raw material
Yes.
supplier to producer.
Okay.
Producer will pay a supplier some money, right? Based
Yes,
on their
yes.
agreed
Okay, okay.
contract and price.
Okay. Okay, correct, correct. Yes, yes, got it. Yes.
Yeah. So now the traditionally you can see that, right? So these maybe a flow of material could be unidirectional. So as in the
Mm-hmm.
material is flowing from the supplier to customer. Cash
Okay.
is also flowing from supplier to customer, right?
Yes,
There might
yes.
be some intermediate like the some in other direction also it might be going depending upon the complexity of a supply chain. But
Okay.
typically the customer is who is paying for this product and all
Yes.
that cash flows back to the supplier.
Yes, okay. Like sometime might be the chances that information also flows from the one to other. Inside the entity and then I like to the outside the entity also, like from the supplier gives some information to the producer gives some information to the customer, and customer gives some information in terms of feedback to the producer. Might be that chances also there flows.
It's we can say it's a very simple term. Never it will be like unidirectional, and you are
Mm-hmm.
perfectly capturing I think the nuance in the modern supply chain.
Mm-hmm.
This flow it could be multi-directional, right?
Yes, yes,
Even
anything.
it will be flowing from one to many, right? Or it will be
Mm-hmm.
flowing
Mm-hmm.
from many to many kind of nodes.
Yes, yes, anything can flow from the in any direction to anyone.
Correct, correct,
Yes,
exactly.
okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay,
But
yes.
like there has to be like for example, the information. Let's take an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the customer, the information that will be flowing is a demand, right? So the how much customer
Okay,
wants, I need
okay.
to have the visibility into that in a
Mm-hmm.
future, right? To plan my
Mm-hmm.
resources, else I'll not be able to meet that demand. So
Yes.
that information from the customer, it may be a
Mm-hmm.
visibility into let's say 3 years, it could be 5 years or 10 years also, right? Because depending upon
Okay,
how company wants to plan. Now that
okay.
information is coming from a customer based on the
Yes.
customer behavior, historical patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Yes.
that information is going to a producer, right? So now
Mm.
what producer is doing is producer is planning his resources, and based on that, he is sending the signals to a raw material supplier, right? So based on
Mm-hmm.
the demand that is coming from customer.
Mm.
Now the same information will go to the distributor to plan his capacity. The same information will go to three-party logistics to plan their
Yes.
overall capacity and the
Yes.
contracts, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
that logical flow of information is there.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. Like sometime there might be the feedback on the product also. Not only the like sometime customer
Mhm.
says whatever the product is used, how was it, or how it should be in the future, what is the development he should do. That information also flows from the customer to retailer, retailer to the distributor, distributor to producer. Then accordingly, producer may ask for the supplier to supply the such a raw material which can fulfill the customer need.
That's perfect example of, I think, the post-market supply chain. The once the
Okay.
product is sold to the customer,
Yes,
now the
yes.
feedback is
Okay.
coming from a customer, right? Even there
Yes,
could be
yes.
return, for example, right? Or any
Mm-hmm.
product complaints that are coming. So that
Yes,
is
yes,
like actionable
absolutely.
signal
Yes,
coming
correct.
from the
That
post-market
that
supply
will,
chain.
yes, that will flow back to the producer.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I remember one of the best example if we can give, when this Maggie product was banned. That time,
Mm-hmm.
whole product went, which were in the market, went back to the producer or the manufacturer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so like, okay, that would be the best example. Or now we can see that electrical items to reduce the e-waste. Customer is
Mm-hmm.
giving back their old electrical product goods is returned to the manufacturer, retailer, where sometime to he will get some discounts also on exchange of the material. So it will flow back to the producer.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes, like some we can name, it is named in the market as a reverse logistics.
Correct. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah,
That.
absolutely. So I think
Yes.
maybe I think in next page, as we
Yeah. Okay.
double click on the definition of a supply chain.
Yes.
So the
Yes.
return, right, or the reverse logistic is one of the supply chain. How to define now a supply chain, right? So we talked about
Okay.
these entities, we talked about the different flows.
Yes.
Just to
Yeah.
add on, we missed, I think, the two new or the advanced flows that we have or the organizations are capturing. So the one is your flow of a risk, right? So that there is
Okay.
always a risk in supply chain in terms of uncertainty, right? So
Yes.
that is typically flows from customer to supplier, right? Even it might flow from customer to producer or producer to supplier. That is also is very very important element of the flow within a supply chain in modern supply chains. And there
Okay.
is a
Yes.
value, of course, right? So the value is added from supplier throughout the value chain. So that flow
Mm-hmm.
up of value, right, and that is should be ideally directly correlated to the money that customer pays, right? Let's
Okay.
take an example as a supplier. If I'm providing very very raw material, the value
Mm-hmm.
will be very low added by the supplier.
Yes.
Versus
Yes.
there is a supplier like maybe example in real world, Foxconn
Mm.
is almost kind of manufacturing complete iPhone, right?
Okay.
So
Yes.
and maybe it's just giving to and making up the Apple for the packaging, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
here the value added by supplier is way lot or the higher.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So
Yes.
the
Correct.
money that let's say the Foxconn or the supplier will be getting will be proportional to the value. So I think
Yes.
this value also is really really important in the pushing
Mm-hmm.
from supply chain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Correct. Correct. Yes. That yeah, that is very important, because that not mere the transport of the product from the one sector to the other, or one part to the
Mhm.
other, but also depends on the what is the value that is being transported.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, might
absolutely.
be sometime in the beginning the value would be very high in one segment of the industry. In other segment of the industry, if I say if I say the shirt,
Mm-hmm.
shirt is made up of cotton. In the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, the cotton value would be very less until it
Mm-hmm.
moves to the retailer. In the retailer shop, the shirt value is very high. It would be sometime the 100% more than the value of the cotton which was transported in the first segment, or a first step.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So in your iPhone example, it is very entirely opposite to that thing.
Correct, correct. Because
Yeah.
supplier is doing lot of value addition.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, yes. Okay. So, yes, yes, yes,
Yeah, we
Baliram.
can
Should
move
I?
to yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
next
Let's move to
slide.
the
Yeah,
next section,
yeah.
right?
1 minute. I will. Should I change this page
Yeah, yeah.
to
Let's
the
change the
next?
page.
Yes,
You can
yes.
just
Yeah,
speak.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. 1 minute. Yes,
Yeah, I think some of the things we already discussed, right,
yes,
Shawad?
yes,
So we
yes,
talked
yes.
about the flow that is happening, right? And I would say the relationship between the two nodes, it's like a maybe a supplier and customer kind of relationship, right?
Yes,
Let's say
yes.
when material is flowing from supplier to producer,
Mhm.
producer is nothing but a customer, right? And supplier is your supplier. When the
Yes, yes,
material is flowing from producer to distributor, so now
yes,
distributor becomes more of a customer and the
yes,
producer is more of a supplier. So this
yes, yes.
relationship keeps on changing, right? Depending upon the hand
Mm-hmm.
of these all the flows that we talk about.
Yes.
And just to build on, I think we talked about the flow of material, flow of a cash, information,
Mm-hmm.
value,
Yes,
and trust, right? So I
yes,
think
yes.
supply chain is all about management of these different flows, and most
Okay.
importantly, these entities, right? The
Yes.
relationships are very, very important.
Mm-hmm. Correct, correct. Pausing you for a while, that one thing I noticed, and I am like very much impressed you that you have mentioned that customer. If I noticed that customer, the end consumer of the final product and services. So the thing is that customer is the end consumer, because customer and the consumer are the two different topics which you have
Mm-hmm.
pointed out here. So most of the things feels that customer and the consumer and the one and the same, but
Mm-hmm.
in the marketplace we see them as a different, because consumer is a one person who consumes the product. Customer is not perfectly a consumer, because sometimes a retailer is also called as a customer because he gets
Mm-hmm.
some
Yep.
product. So consumer is the end consumer or a buyer or the common people
Mm-hmm.
who buy some products for the consumption, like you say refrigerator. This refrigerator consumer is one who buys a refrigerator, keeps in his home and uses that refrigerator. Is a consumer
Mm-hmm.
who consumes the things.
Yeah, that's a good point, Shavak, right? And I
Yes,
think there is a lot of nuance also, right? As we
yes,
dig deeper into the overall supply chain and
yes, yes.
these
That.
different entities. Yeah, you are right. So the consumer or the customer rules keep on changing. The consumer is one who actually consumes, right, that material or whatever the product or even the services,
Yes,
for example.
yes, yes.
Let's take an example of confectionery manufacturers, like let's say the
Okay.
Mondelez, which
Yes,
is manufacturing of Cadbury,
yes,
right? So in
yes.
that case, the individual person who is actually eating that, maybe a Cadbury or the chocolate is a consumer, but
Yes,
retailer also could be a customer or distributor
yes.
also could be a
Perfect.
customer.
Yes,
So
perfect. Yes.
that relationship, as I said, so keeps on changing in the context of the business
Mm-hmm.
dynamics.
Okay.
But the
Yes.
really the end consumer is who pays,
Mm-hmm.
let's say, for the value that has been added throughout the value chain.
Yes, yes. And adding one more thing that I don't know whether we can discuss separately a video for the who is customer and who is consumer. One was saying that in one retail shop there was a AC, and
Hmm.
a customer walks into the retail shop and he sits beneath that AC to get a cool air. Now that dilemma is whether he is a customer or a consumer of that AC. Might be in the funniest way someone
Uh-huh.
asks.
Yeah.
Okay, might not be
Yeah,
we
yeah.
come into the conclusion, but we can discuss in some other video on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the concept wise we can, I mean, and it could be contextual, as I said, right? So
Yes,
the
yes,
important is some context and what is the supply chain that we're talking about, whether it's supply
yes.
chain of maybe FMCG or supply chain of automotive. I think it
Okay.
would be really interesting perspective around the consumer and the customer. I think that's whole
Yes,
the new topic that we can talk about.
yes, yes. That we can discuss on some other day.
Yeah, I think with this, what I want to talk about, Shavak, I think we can quickly move to the last section, which
Yeah.
is
Okay.
within the supply chain, there are different sub functions, right?
Okay.
Supply chain is more of an art, is what people say, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it has like multiple sub function within that. Like when I say supply chain, I said, okay, so there is a flow of material, flow of those things. But
Mm-hmm.
now individually, I need to manage that certain aspect within the supply chain, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is a famously, there is one, I think the publicly recognized industry standard, the SCORE framework, right? So which is supply chain framework,
Okay.
which is ASCM, right? It's Association of Supply Chain Management,
Yes.
who tries to define a supply chain as a standard, right? Like how to define, let's say, the overall supply chain.
Yes.
They talk about the PMO called as a plan,
Mm-hmm.
make,
Hmm.
source, deliver, right? So this was
Okay.
their
Yes.
like a base definition of the supply chain. I
Mm-hmm.
try to add some of the things on that, right? If you can quickly go to the next page.
Yes.
Uh, so now talking about this diagram, right? So the zero one is your plan, right? So the planning as in your
Mm-hmm.
plan for your demand, right? How much will be the demand that will be coming? How much
Yes.
supply I need to provide to meet the customer demand, right? And how much inventory I need to have at the
Hmm.
replenishment. That also could
Hmm.
be the planning.
Hmm.
So the planning, I would say anything that is futuristic kind of activity
Mm-hmm.
that I am trying to plan my resources, right, to meet the customer needs. The
Yes.
second one is a make. It's anything about the production and manufacturing, right? So it could be
Okay. Mm-hmm.
quality, it could be engineering, right, or some of those affiliated kind of functions.
Mm-hmm.
Third is the source. You can say the source and procurement, right? So there is a slight difference between sourcing and procurement. Source
Yes.
is you identify who is my prospect who can, let's say, supply my product or the raw
Yes.
materials. Procurement is ongoing kind of activity where you place the orders and get the material. Right?
Yes.
But that
Yes.
is
Correct.
also really a crucial aspect of a successful supply chains, right? Depending
Ye-
upon what type of supply chain. I think the
Mhm.
overall success of the business depends upon the whole supply base that company has, right?
Mhm.
Especially because of the quality, delivery, and those kind of aspect, right? The
Yes.
fourth one is the deliver. So the deliver
Hmm.
is nothing but it deals with movement of the material to the final destination to the end
Okay.
consumers. Right?
Hmm.
It includes your distribution, it includes your transportation. It can
Hmm.
also include your custom, for example, right? Because
Hmm.
custom and compliance is also because now the supply chains are global. You need
Yes.
to have the import clearance, import practices, right? A lot of affiliated government things will be there, right? So this was the base definition by score ASCM. Now
Hmm.
some additional things. I think you had brought like very interesting topic of return, right? So there will be
Yes.
feedback loop kind of mechanism, right, of the closed loop kind of supply chain where the inputs is coming from the customer. So that is a
Yes.
return, right? Anything about management of that.
Yes.
Then I added these 6, 7, and 8, right? And these are the additional or the modern sub functions within supply chain, right? And more they are becoming like an integral part of the supply chain, right?
Yes.
Everybody is talking about within the supply chain how I can harness the power of a data to make the better decisions, right? Be
Yes.
it within the planning, manufacturing, sourcing, and
Hmm.
delivering,
Hmm.
so that
Hmm.
my supply chain is optimal, right?
Okay.
Uh, the seventh one is about risk and sustainability, right? So even the
Yes.
sustainability is the very crucial, right? Because a lot
Hmm.
of carbon footprint and the slowly I think that will become competitive advantage for the companies who are sustainable
Yes.
in terms of their supply chain, and be it
Yes.
logistics, be it manufacturing, and so on, right?
Yes.
So now
Yes.
companies are focusing on how they can think about the ways to make maybe a green and sustainable kind of operations in supply
Hmm.
chain. That
Yes.
is also
Correct.
becoming the like a small function and small things within the manufacturing organizations.
Yes.
And the last
Hmm.
one is about the IT, right? So the IT has been there, but even within
Hmm.
that also some the evolution is happening, right? Within
Hmm.
the IT, there
Yes.
is the functions like you have the enterprise IT, but there will be supply chain IT because
Okay.
you need to have a lot of specific supply chain systems like your ERP, which is called as enterprise resource planning, right?
Yes.
Or the
Yes.
planning platform to manage your MRP, which is material resource planning, right? Or the
Hmm.
material requirement planning. There will
Yes.
be
Yes.
warehousing management system, transportation management system,
Hmm.
manufacturing execution system, and so on, right? So the
Hmm.
lot of supply chain systems are there, which needs this focus team who can manage
Yes.
these systems for the supply chain to bring a better experience, right?
Yes.
And of
Yes.
course, the digital transformation, right? So the lot of companies are looking, okay, we have this operations group, but we want to digitize this, right? And lot of day
Yes.
by day there are more use cases that are coming in. So
Hmm.
having this function really creates the roadmap for the transformation kind of a journey and elevating the
Hmm.
maturity of the supply chain for the companies. So if you have to
Okay.
define what within the supply chain, the what it
Hmm.
constitutes in terms of the
Hmm.
functions, this
Hmm.
is how I define it in terms of the eight
Okay.
different pieces coming together.
Yes, yes, okay, yeah. Like it's a very interesting diagram where I didn't know the point number 6, 7, and 8. Uh, because came across only the plan, make, and source. So you very well described that what is the source and what is the procurement differences. That would be a separate chapter itself to discuss what comes under the source and what comes under the procurement. So, and of course the delivery and the return logistics, I know, but analytics and risk management and the supply chain IT is very, I think it is a new era supply chain where it is now adding up to the concept of the supply chain.
Another way looking at it, Shavak, is that the base
Mhm.
functions, that's more of art. Right? The
Okay.
planning is art, manufacturing is, we can say, combination of
Okay.
science and art.
Okay.
Sourcing, delivering, management could be art, but these additional
Yes.
functions are really bringing a science into managing the supply chain.
Okay.
And
Okay.
each of these topic could be a separate detailed kind of discussion. Let's say
Yes.
the
Yes.
how
Sure. Yeah. Definitely. Yes.
it's
Yes.
the kind of complexity and the value or the potential it has to
Okay.
enhance the supply chain is kind of a tremendous. And a lot of use cases are there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how I can forget about the classical AI and generative AI, right?
Yes. Yes.
Even that also will be sitting somewhere from 6, 7, or 8, right? And
Yes.
then that is
Yes.
very important, right? So it's as important as, let's say, when Nokia didn't adopt Android, right? So that kind of
Yes.
an inflection point is coming where companies really need to match with the trend, right? It's not just a
Yes.
trend, but it's really happening and proving to be the competitive advantage, right? As a factor for a lot of companies. So I think
Okay.
those will
Yes.
be really interesting topic to think about, like how those can be applied for supply chain processes.
Okay. So like sometime that evolution in the layman language is a trend. That is what I feel.
Correct, correct.
Like so,
It's
if
ongoing kind
someone,
of a trend, right?
yes, yes, if someone is not into that, then he will become the outdated or the technology is obsolete.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
okay, yes, yes, yes. So that is
Yeah, so
in the new era, is addition with the traditional thing of logistics. This is very beautifully explained in the circle kind of thing where each part is equally contributing towards the supply chain.
yeah, I think in as a closing remark, I would say this might be very,
Mhm.
very high level and
Mhm.
just for layman to understand, okay, what is the supply chain?
Yes,
But
yes,
we can have deep dive discussion around the
yeah,
all of these components, right? From the
yes,
to really unlock and unfold what is beneath the supply chain and how to
yes,
manage it
yes,
effectively.
yes, correct, correct, yeah. Okay, so this is this is much more enough of first 30 minutes you have explained that brief into the supply chain and components into it, and adding to this my understanding is a little bit of what I felt when I work for in the logistics where it is a movement and movement of the goods from the one place to other place and considering logistics. So I want to tell that because the coming of the concept of the supply chain, everything was called as a logistics. If I am not wrong, like it was a movement of the goods from the one place to other
Hmm.
place, and
Yeah.
logistics was a separate part. And in a traditional factory or traditional entity setup, where there was a production, operations, and logistics, sales and marketing, research, as you said, procurement, and slowly these operations and the production become one part, and it we started to call that as operations management. And then slowly we took the procurement part into that, slowly we took the sourcing into that, slowly we, on the other hand, we took the logistics into that. We took the distribution, we all took together, and under one entity we said it is a supply chain management. So if we notice, whatever we do in a supply chain management is existed before to the term called supply chain also, but we knew it under the different concepts, is not under a single head. So supply chain brought together all the small components and put together uh, under one roof, and they started to call it as a supply chain management. That is what I uh, can grasp from the market or from the day-to-day my activity.
That is good summary, Shavak. Yeah, and
Hmm.
really a good definition for layman to understand, like how to think
Yes,
about as a or how to define supply chain, right?
yes,
And that
yes.
could be really a crux and some of the things can audiences
Hmm.
retain, right, to define a supply chain.
Yes, yes. So the in the whenever we go to new era supply chain, that is movement of
Mhm.
the product from the one place to the other. So before we were calling it as a logistics of logistics because it is a movement of the goods. Soon that we understood that even the movement of the goods also has some value. A movement from the one place to the other
Mhm.
place has some value, even though the product sometime it is not moved, then also it gets some value. And on
Mhm.
the other hand, we also understood that if the product moves from one place to other, not definitely it gets some value, it can be a mere logistics, or we can say in a simple term it is a transportation of the product.
Yeah, that's a good perspective. Yeah.
Yes. So whenever I say the supply chain means a movement of the product which has some value in it. In the beginning, you have said that whenever we source, whenever we procure, whenever we store, whenever we transport, whenever we get the information, we do the downward supply, outward supply, or the reverse supply, whatever it happens, it has some value. So, similar to that, what I understood is whatever moves, it should add some value to the entity. So there is one famous example from my when I was studying of the logistics and supply chain, that was a very famous, everyone used to give that example, that wool taken from the sheep would be having a less value then the shirt made up of that wool is like 1,000 times more value than the actual raw material. So the raw material from the
Mhm.
body of the sheep, that is wool, moved into the shirt, and when it is priced and tagged in the retail shop, it has a thousand of rupees. But actually, the raw material might not be have that worth in the beginning because it's on the some animal which was wandering around. So because it undergone gone with some supply chain process, it got the more value than that of the raw material. So this is would be the classic example that in each stage, if we see that wool is taken out and it is processed to make some cotton sheets, and from the cotton sheets divided into the shirt, and shirt again if we discuss on more on that, sim shirt before it becomes shirt, it is a simple spread of the cotton sheet, and this cotton sheet cut into the pieces and it is made shirt, and it is added the pockets and the collars and the buttons, and this how the shirt came into the existence, which has the more value. So once it is wrapped and provided the price tag, it become a proper product where it has 1,000 times more than what the actual wool is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a fantastic example, right, of the value chain.
Yes, yes.
Um,
So
to understanding like how what is the importance, I think, of the value and how the value can be kind of measured throughout the value chain, and as well as
yes,
the role of a supply chain, right? It's,
yes,
it's really a
yes.
value adding activity because
Hmm.
without this, you'll not be able to, like, let's say, the
Hmm.
ensure your product is available to the customer.
Yes, yes.
So that's a good closing definition, Shavak, right? So I think we can discuss more about some of the interesting topics, right, within the supply chain definition we talked about in the upcoming
Yes.
sessions.
Yes, yes, sure. Like to in the closing, I can say that value chain, which is entirely talking about the supply chain and the logistics. but value chain somewhere it tells that there must be a value addition every time whenever the product moves from the one place to the other place.
Yeah.
So supply chain also incorporated the logistics concepts, which are logistics is one part of the supply chain, where when the logistics is we can see the transportation also as a logistics, which includes the core portion of the logistics where the product is moved from the one place to the other. So in the logistics also a value chain, or sometimes we can say that logistics also the supply chain. You gave an example of a third party logistics, where most of the time third party logistics do not do anything apart from the movement of the product from the one place to other place, if I am not wrong. But still there is a value addition, because that moved the product is moved from the one place to the other. So there is a classic example of a library books. So a book in a scrapyard or a book in a scrap shop has a less value than that book in the library. If that book is transported from the scrap shop to the library, 1,000 people can read that book and get the knowledge. If it is in the scrap shop, then it would be not more than some paisas. So the moment where the book is moved from the scrap to the library, there is no any value addition. There was no wrapping, there was no price tagging, there was no modification. But when it was moved, it gets the more value. In the library, the thousand of the people reads that and gets the knowledge. So the logistics also the sometime is a value chain or the supply chain. So here what I wanted to convey is, even though it is a movement of the goods without adding any value, it will come called as a supply chain, because it added some value to someone, not definitely in terms of money, but in terms of any other, like a knowledge or happiness or something. So that is also the supply chain, because that is created something. So that is what my understanding of the logistics supply chain, and both together they have created some value, so we call it as a value chain. So I try to convey to the viewers, supply chain has all the components which we had earlier, but the only one change what is the supply chain is having is, it brought all the concepts under one umbrella and shared the information between the concepts and increase the value in the each departments. If the supply chain took 10 different departments which were working before as a separate entity, now it brought all the departments of one entity under one umbrella. Not only inside the business or the inside the company, it took the outside company, or it took the other stakeholders also into the business or into their coverage, and they shared the information among all, and they gained more. So not only the entity gained, everyone, even the customer and the supplier of the raw material also gained from it. And finally the value of the product increase. So value of the product increase is not in terms of the value, or not in terms of the profit. It might be the cost of the production reduced, so that the profit increase. So whenever we say that profit, have to earn more profit, it not means that we have to increase the prices to earn more profit. You can earn the profit even by reducing the costs also. So taking together all the people, reduce the cost, increase the manufacturing capacity, increase the efficiency of the enterprise, and that's how increase the profit and increase the standard of living, increase the wealth of the country, and well-being of the world increase. And you said very clearly that sustainable development goals, logistics also involved in that, sharing the information. If it is reducing the transportation cost in terms of reducing the pollution, that is also increase of the value. So All these topics together happened because of the all these entities or departments come under the one heading, that is a supply chain. That is what my understanding is.
That's good summary, Shavak. Yeah, I think
Yes,
we have like a good definition, right, for the
yes, yeah.
where that layman can understand for the supply chain.
Yes,
So I
yes,
think this is a good
yes,
summary, and we
yes.
can close the.
We tried out something from whatever we had experienced and whatever we have read. And if our viewers have more comments on whatever we discuss, might be it is a right points and they liked it, or might be it is the some point where they feel uh, differently from our point of view. They can share their comments. They can provide us some more input so that we can incorporate that in the next video, and we can discuss some more topics on this.
Thank you so much, Shavak.
Yes,
Good
thank you very
discussion. Really.
yeah,
Okay,
thank
thank
you
you.
very much, Baliram, for joining this. We will come up with one more topic, and we share our views in the upcoming days.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you very much, thank you.